Hello, you, and welcome to takTalks. This is a place where I, Takaya Honda, get to chat to my fellow actors about their lives, about acting, about the work they've done, about anything we really want to, because there's no rules on takTalks and I get to do whatever I want. But enough from me. You're really here to see the main man, the big dog himself. His name, Lincoln Lewis. He's done everything. He's done Neighbours and Home and Away. That's basically everything there is to do in the world, really. So, isn't that great? Anyway, here he is, Lincoln Lewis. Woo!
Hey, Leggy! Hey, mate, thanks for having me on. Far out. This is sick, man. I'm loving what you're doing.
Oh, thank you, mate. I love what you do in general. So, there's an equal mutual love.
The last time I got to froth out this much while looking at you was at the Logies, and I was like, it was just dreamboat. So.
Oh, speaking of dreamboat, look at that rig on you now. Bloody beautiful, mate.
How you been, buddy?
I've been good. I've been enjoying doing these things. I mean, they've been way more work than I had anticipated because I didn't set out to do this, really. I just set out to have some fun lives where we could have multiple people, and the only way I could do multiple people was by doing this, and then it turned into this big thing. But now I'm loving it because
man.
Pardon?
Which is wicked, man. It's such a good thing that you're doing because, obviously, we have that, that social distancing thing going on, so we can't actually get FaceTime around each other. So this is fantastic, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying just chatting to people and hearing some stories. I mean, I'm so lucky to know people like yourself and the rest of the cast of Neighbours and other people that have come on, because people have just such interesting lives that have gotten to them to the point that they are, and so rarely do we get to talk about that stuff. So that was this is a platform for us to talk about the things we never get asked in interviews.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, it's quite few and far between we actually get to really just have a massive chat. Like if you do something for telly or for radio or whatever it may be, it's like a quick couple of minute chat and then you're done. So this is a really cool way just to kind of have a yarn and just talk some cool shit.
Yeah, because most interviews are all about and I don't like to call these interviews, they're more like just chats and conversations, but they're all about trying to get that soundbite, and this is like the anti-soundbite. It's like, let's dive in deep on something and hear the full story.
Yeah.
Because it's way more interesting to me. I love it. It's so good.
I'm just seeing a couple of people pop up what they're writing, and so just want to say hello to a few of the people that are typing in. So
Please do.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, Ness and the Walrus, there too. You guys have been in nearly every day. I love you guys. Thank you for joining us.
That's sick. Which, far out. All right, so we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. I'll follow it along.
Yeah.
Thanks, T-Girl, for saying it's becoming the favorite time of the week, day lately.
Hey, Ness.
That was a long, weird sentence that I said really badly. Anyway, how's isolation been for you? I mean, Queensland's a little bit lighter than the rest of the country.
Yeah, look, man. I mean, it's pretty hectic, isn't it? It's this whole uncharted waters going on for all of us. It's something that none of us really know, how to approach it and how to deal with it. And I was even speaking to my mum's. It's sort of like her great auntie, and she just she's in her 90s, and it was her birthday the other day. So we went and said happy birthday from a distance. And anyway, she was born just after everything finished with the Spanish flu, and so the stuff that she's heard the stories, but even she wasn't around when all that happened. So for anyone alive today, they actually haven't, they haven't experienced anything like this. So we're kind of just figuring it out as we go. And so man, to be honest with you, if there is a place. I mean, I feel very, very lucky and very blessed to be calling Australia home any day of the week, but especially now, we have such, we're isolated, but we've got a lot of nature around us. And mate, I've never seen the sky this clear. I've never seen the water this clear, but yeah, I don't know, man. Funnily enough, I was having to think about it the other day, and when one of my mates was like, bro, hey, how you holding up? Because we'll all check in with each other, and I'll send a message to some of my mates. I'll give some people a call or whatever. And I said, "Hey, you holding up?" And I was just dude, I'm an actor. This is another day for me. When they're because out of this industry can be quite, it's just up and down all the time. I'll be working on a job, and then all of a sudden you're out, and then you don't know what's going on. The next 6 months you're just auditioning, and organizing meetings and trying to do things to try and keep busy, and then, trying to write some stuff, pitching some ideas, whatever it may be. And so when someone's like, how are you coping with not working on anything? I'm like, well, I mean, I've had a bit of practice,
Yeah.
but I think for me, dude, the thing that I'm missing the most is I'm a really family orientated kind of guy, and so my nephews, my brother and my sister-in-law live 5 minutes up the road. My sister lives 10 minutes the other way, and then Pop live 5 minutes past my brother, and like we all can't see each other, and like I've dropped some stuff off to them, like just go and get some milk and bread and whatnot and drop it off their place, and they come outside and they're about to start running, and my brother and my sister-in-law, let's say to the youngest, his name's Will, and they're just like, Will, you can't do that, buddy, and he'll sort of stop and he'll look back at them and so, remember, buddy, we talked about this, we can't do that at the moment, we can't do that anymore. And it's just like, when you hear it, you go, okay, we just got to get on with it. We just got to, this is what we have to do. We have to make sure we don't go where, unless we absolutely have to, all those kinds of things. But when you see your loved one, when you actually can't be around them, because one of my nephews has, he's got some lung issues and stuff like that. So I've got to make sure I really stay at distance. But when we see, like when that happened and he's looked back and he's kind of just had this look of, he knows what they're saying, but to truly comprehend it, we're even struggling, you know what I mean? So he just had this like little deflated look, and he started walking back, and I was just like, there goes my heart, man. Like, oh, that sucks. So, but look, in saying that, I'm taking the positives with this. Like, they're healthy. I'm waking up, family's healthy, my mates are healthy and stuff like that. So, at the end of the day, I think that's the only thing we're, really trying to keep in mind is just that, look, situations suck. We can't control them. It's like the weather. It's out of our control. The best we can do is to just sort of make use of our time in the meantime, and hope that everyone that we love and we're close to stays happy and healthy as well. And that's the main thing I'm happy with every day, is just that my loved ones are they're okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's kind of what we need to focus on. I was talking to a friend over in LA today, and she was saying how like scared she's been over the last 4 or 5 weeks, or however long it's been now, and her production's been shut down, and it's really scary for them there because it's so much more intense, and they're feeling it in a much stronger way, and they were looking back at their families over here, and they have they're in a real bind because about 3 weeks ago they were given the call to like citizens come back to Australia, but she's like 1 week into shooting this show, and then if she came back, she might not have been able to get back to the US. So then is she giving up being at that job, which we actually killed the show because she's one of the 2 leads, and then so she's then going, oh, and they'd have to leave their dog there, and they'd have to just basically leave the house and then come back to here. They don't have a place. They literally moved like 2 months ago to LA, and like it's hearing her talk about how much struggle she's had seeing her family, and watching people in Australia not do what has been happening for them in California, where they're so locked down, their groceries come by a little robot thing that drives up to their door, and then they open it and take out the groceries. And looking back at people in Australia seeming to be so lax about it, and like, guys, you like stay home, like can't you see what's happening in the rest of the world? Because it's hugely scary. So we're so privileged being in Australia at the moment, and we're so lucky that everyone at home right now in Australia is still staying home because it's working at this point, and we've got to stick to it. We can't get complacent, because that's the biggest risk we have right now, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest part, is that when you get that little glimmer of hope, and we start hearing about the statistics and all that kind of stuff, we everyone sort of, you go, all right, like you feel that glimmer of hope, you get excited, but then like you just said, dude, we just got to remember, it's like we got to be uncomfortable for a little bit, just to make sure that everything can be sweet in the long term. And I think it's another thing to remind us how lucky we have been. For the longest time, we have been so lucky that we can go outside, we can catch up with friends whenever we want. We can say, hey, let's catch up for a feed. We can go to the beach. We can do this. We can do that. We can do anything. And all of a sudden, it's only one of those things where once it's taken away from you, we realize how lucky we were to have it every single day. Yeah. And so I think it's just one of those things where, like, I saw this someone write it the other day. I think it was on I can't remember whether it was on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. One of the three. I don't know. I scroll everything these days on my phone half the bloody day. But anyway, dude, like they said, it's interesting to think that we're currently living through a future history class, and it's so and it's like, it's interesting because every single day that we're waking up to this, it's another day in the history books of what's going on, and they're going to be teaching this like in years to come about what was going on. This is one of those times, and we're living through it right now. It's like, anyway, man, it's quite a surreal sort of thing. But like you said, we just got to kind of do what we have to do. Like, we have to sort of go, all right, well, we've got to be uncomfortable for a little bit for the long term. So for the long term gain. So yeah, man, it's wild, but it's good to see like that like a lot of people have just sort of snapped into it, went, all right, shit, I got to do my part.
Yeah. Well said. I like that. I really like that idea, and looking at it that way. But let's move away from the COVID-19 coronavirus chat, unless you got something to say.
Yeah, just quickly. Yeah, just quickly. Like, for everyone watching right now, guys, like, I hope you're all doing okay. Like, I hope everyone's well and happy, and your family and your loved ones, everyone's all safe, and just, yeah, like, one, thanks for tuning in, but two, just, I hope you and yours are all safe and well and happy. Just sending lots of love, because we're all going through the same thing. We're all like, we all have a lot of things going through our minds. We're all thrown out of routine, out of whack, and we're trying to sort of find everything, get back into sync. So we're all in that same boat. So just, wanted to send lots of love to everyone who's watching at the moment. And I'm seeing like some questions going through, and so we'll get onto them in a little bit. But yeah, thanks for writing them. Thanks for watching. And yeah, we'll just like send a lot of love to you guys.
I second that notion. What a guy this guy is. Look at him. All right, so look, there's so much we could talk about, because you've done heaps already, man. Like, it's really cool, some of the stuff that you can name drop like all over the place with some really cool people that you've worked with, which is so awesome. And it's
I just feel like if I was to name, like, here's the thing, if I was to like drop any of those names, like, it's so fun. Like, no, just like out of the blue, I can just picture like any person I've ever grown up with, or my family or whatever, just coming up the back of my head, like one of those ones just going, you absolute dickhead. Like, and I think that's the cool thing about being in Australia is like, we have the downside of that, which sometimes it feels like you can't fully embrace certain things because of how it might be perceived. But then also, in saying that, it's a good thing that really keeps that keeps your mentality, or just keeps everyone as general like quite grounded, which is really cool. But yeah, I've had the privilege of working with some amazing people, some who I've idolized since I was a child, and it was awesome, because like, I remember meeting someone in particular.
You can name drop. This is the format you're allowed to say their names in this one.
Okay,
Unless it's a bad story, and then maybe don't say their name.
No. So okay, so I got a small role in a film in the States, which actually ended up becoming an even smaller role because they cut the first 15 minutes of the film, and myself, along with one of the girls who was in the first Hunger Games film, her name was Isabel, and she played Clove in the first Hunger Games film, and it was a Will and Jaden Smith movie called After Earth. And so I got flown over to, like, I was in LA at the time, and then I got flown over to Philly. And so we're in Philadelphia. I got put up in the hotel, and I knew that the next day was going to be my first day of just spending a week in Philly, filming there. And I hadn't met Will, I hadn't met Jade, but I grew up watching Will Smith and Fresh Prince. I loved everything, like every movie he's done. Like, every time I'd see a Will Smith is putting out a movie, I didn't care what it was. I was like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to watch it because he's the legend. So anyway, we got there, and it was being directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and so I hadn't met him either, but yet he cast me for the role. And so we got there, and I did a couple of hours with this guy we called the Sergeant Major, who was teaching us. It was a military, quite like, had to do all this military stance, so standing, turning, walking, all this, how to salute properly, all these different kinds of things. Spent a couple of hours with him, then kept doing some stuff with the dialect coach, because they created their own dialect for this film. It was a mixture of 5 of the world's most spoken languages. So just accent-wise, just putting them all together. And so I had to do a lot of Skype work with him while I was in Sydney at the time. And then once I flew over there, did some more. Anyway, we went into this warehouse, and this warehouse was this fucking massive studio, and they had about 5 different sets in there, and one of them was this giant bird's nest, and the other was this underground volcano with like lava and stuff. Like this thing was massive. I think it was like $150 million film kind of thing. So they built the sets, right? Anyway, so we're going through. Sergeant Major's taking me through, and I'd seen that they were doing a scene with Jaden and M. Night's there with all the monitors and stuff, and he's just watching him do all this kind of stuff. I'm like, holy shit, that's Jaden Smith just there. Okay, wow, there's M. Night Shyamalan. And then they cut, and M. Night's sort of he was standing there, he's had a look, and he's just sort of seen me to the side. He's like, oh damn! Takes his headphones off. He's like, hey, Lick. And I was just like, I haven't met you, but what's up? And he's just like, how you doing, bro? And I'm like, man, I'm thank you. It was a mixture of like answering his question, but also like wanting to thank him for me being there. So I was just like, yeah, good thing. You really what? Hey, yeah. And he's just like, I was like, dude, this is amazing. How you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm great. He's like, you know, basically said, do you want to come watch the scene? I was like, no, you go do it. You go do it. He's like, no, bro, come over. And I was just like, no, it's okay, man. It's okay. You do it. We'll catch up after. He's like, all right, man. Great to see you. Like, anyway, he goes over, puts his headphones back on, goes and talks to Jaden. We walk away, start checking out some other sets. And we're looking at, and to our right is, you know, we call it catering here, but over there they call it craft services. And so there was all these tables of just tables and tables of food and lollies and all that kind of stuff. And we walked past that, and we checked out that bird's nest set. And we're talking away, and just as simple as you and I are talking right now, where I say that's a really cool Ramsey Street sign behind you, like it just. Like as like chill as that, he's talking away about something, and it's just like, oh yeah, there's Will. And I was like, what? And I looked, and 20 meters away from me, standing there with just a cool pair of shoes, jeans, regular. He wasn't filming that day. 6'2" or 3 or whatever, in all his glory, was Will Smith talking to like a couple of crew dudes, just like having a yarn, and he's just animated and doing all that. And anyway, has a quick chat to them, and then he just starts walking in our direction. Like he walked past the craft services table, and he starts walking our way. And whenever we see Sergeant Major, this was the thing that we had to do. Whenever we see him, it's always just salute, and as like a sign of respect, because he's a former Marine, and what his job is to teach any kind of people in a military film. So like Battle Los Angeles, he taught all the guys. So like any time where they have to teach them how to do military stuff, most likely they're going to go through him. So he comes up, just this absolute god. And he comes up, and I'm standing like, I'm here, Sergeant Major's here. Anyway, comes up to Sergeant Major, goes like this, like gives him a quick salute. And he's like, he sort of like did a little bit of a bend. He does that. And he looks at me and goes, how are you, sir? And I'm like, and I'm like, and I tried every single trick in my mind to stay composed. I was like, hey, go on, mate, pleased to meet you. He's like, yeah, you too, man, you too, all right. And then like they had a quick chat, and anyway, he's like, all right, I'm gonna get some food. And he starts walking away, and I was just like, holy shit. Anyway, we start walking away, and Sergeant Major leaves, and I'm starting to watch them film the last couple of takes of that, and by then there was the end of the day. And they had all those seats, you know, the seats with their names on them and stuff like that. So all these seats, a couple of monitors. Will was sitting in the middle, and like they had a couple of people, like Jade's acting coach and the dialect coach was there, like all these people. Anyway, they've ended up leaving because that was it. They were done for the day, and they've all walked away. The monitors have just turned blue because everything's been turned off, and I'm just standing there. I was like, I'm not fucking walking away at the moment, like, because this is like, you know, to be a working actor is your dream, but I was taken in this moment of just going, like, I'm in America right now. I've got a job. Holy shit. And 3, I've just met one of my all-time idols who I never thought I'd met. And like, I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. Anyway, they're all walked away, and I'm just standing there taking it all in and just kind of just, you know, enjoying the moment. And out of nowhere, he walks back by himself. And he just walks past, he's like, yo, what's up, man? Take a seat. And I'm like, no, I don't want to get in anyone's way. And he's like, no, it's all good, man. And he sits down in his chair, and he sits back. He's like, have a seat, man. So I sit on the chair next to him. And he's just like, how you doing, man? And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, yeah, I'm so good, dude. Yeah. And I start talking about, like, because they gave me a military haircut at the time. And I was just like, you know, I just started telling him about how I just flew over from Australia like 3 days early. He's just like, okay, all right. And I made some joke. I can't remember what it was. And he started laughing. And I was like, holy shit, I made him laugh. This is a day. Like this day, it just went from like that. Anyway, someone's come over, one of the ADs, and she's just like, hey, guy. And she's like, Will, I'm so sorry. He's like, it's all good. And she's like, Lincoln, Jaden's outside. He'd like to meet you by his trailer. And I'm like, oh, shit. And then I looked at Will, and Will's like, yo, man, you go. He got music. He's I was like, okay, well, I'll see you later. He's like, all right, man, I'll see you later. I walked outside, and then I met Jaden, and Jaden and I sparked up a really good friendship through that. And they invited, like, I went over their house a couple of times when I got back to LA, and just it's one of those examples whenever anyone's ever asked me, they said, what's he like as a person? Because something you just never know. And I was like, Will and Jaden, picture how cool you think they are, and times that by about 100, and you're probably like, you're getting close. Like these guys, not only were they so cool, but they were just so humble. You know what I mean? Like they've achieved. Like Will's, he's done that. He's done it, and he's just so humble and so welcoming. And Jaden was just like they were just both like, I don't know, come over when we get back to LA, come over. And it was just the coolest thing ever. And so there's just been some amazing people which I idolize. Like I was lucky enough to meet Russell Crowe recently, and he's very much the same. Like that dude, he's an icon. Like he's achieved everything he's achieved, done all the films he's done. He's an absolute legend. But on top of that, he is a real genuine human. They are so much more than anything I ever thought that they'd be or I see on screen. They're just amazing. So yeah, that was kind of cool.
Kind of cool. That's where you could say that was cool. That's really cool. Like, I mean, and let alone the fact that it's not just meeting. You've also befriended in the way, and that's also a tribute to who you are as well. I mean, you're one of the most lovable people I've ever met. Like you and Maddie are both really similar that way. Like it's really hard. The only way you can hate you guys is because you're so nice.
Bro, all I can say is just it's like right back at you. It's like, honestly, man, like. I think I don't even know how to say that. It's like when someone says something nice to you, you don't know what to you don't know what to say. Like you just say, yeah, thank you. But in saying that, man, like right back at you, and like that's that. Like when I get to see you and Maddie and some of the other crew, I'm just like, you guys are just great. And that's what. So when you messaged me, tell me about this, I was just like, hell yeah, man, I'd love to do this because one, it means we get to catch up, and two, we're spreading the good vibes. So
yeah, well, thank you for being here because it's really awesome. God, hearing stories like that is just epic. So that's why you're here. So, all right, another one, do it. Off you go. I don't like. I actually like. I'm thinking like, oh, what's a follow-up question to this?
No, honestly, it's crazy because like thinking of like far out, if someone was to tell you when you did your very first audition, you think of it like this, like on the day of your very first audition, like if someone was to tell you that you would be doing what you're doing right now, you'd sit there just like with a bit of a like you go ultimately, yeah, I would hope so, but shit, like I don't know, like you don't even know. It's something that you will never truly get used to. You know what I mean? Is to go like I've just thinking of how lucky we've been to be able to work on our dream job. And so when I got my first agent when I was 13, and I think I did when I was like 13 and 14. I think I did maybe 1 or 2 auditions a year, and I just couldn't get an audition. And I was doing acting classes on the weekends and workshops, and like no one at school knew that I was like trying to do acting. I just kept that to myself, like not in any bad way. I just always kept my cards close to my chest. Like I'd play footy for school and for club, do surfboat rowing for club and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like if someone's like, what are you doing on the weekend? And not much. I just went down to the coast because I'd be going down the Gold Coast and there'd be an acting workshop with a casting director.
When did that start for you? Like what urged you to do that?
To be honest with you, I wish I knew. I think I told Mom at a younger age that I would like to have done acting, and she said okay, like she wasn't sure, like if I was just sort of saying it, and she's like okay, well if you want to do it, then well if you actually really want to give it a go, then come out of the school that you're in, we'll put you like, you go to a performing arts school and you won't get, you'll have to stop playing footy because obviously, if you keep playing football, might get an injury and then you won't be able to do any acting. So, and I was just like, no, like I was a kid. I was like, no,
Yeah.
I want to play football. I want to be with my friends. And mum was like, okay, well, don't worry about it. Like mum, the coolest thing about my mum, like, she's like in my mind, she's the greatest human being on the world. You know what I mean? Like, we all like, we all love our mums. And so anyway, she was just like, whatever you want to do, I'm supporting you. Like, and she was like never a stage parent or anything like that. So never push you or anything. The only thing they ever did is just whatever you do, you put your heart and soul into it. Like it's as simple as that. And as a parent, they just like, as a parent, we couldn't be prouder of you.
And what's her background into his work and stuff? Because obviously everyone knows about your dad, but
Yeah.
like, what about your mum? Like, because she sounds pretty awesome.
She's great, man. See, mum's like I grew up working a bunch of different jobs, and like obviously like through her young years, and then when she met dad, funnily enough, man, dad had been asking my mum out for about 6 months, maybe longer, and mum kept knocking him back because she was like, look, I know that he was sort of just starting to come up in the ranks in the Brisbane competition, and he had a lot of like sort of a lot of people were saying he's going to be making something of himself in the football world, right? And he'd been asking her out for months and months and months, and she was like sort of saying no because I don't want to be like a notch on the footy player's belt kind of thing, I just no. And then he'd start sending her flowers. And so every week he'd send her roses, and he and his mum, my dad and his mum owned a local deli, so for like deli and veggies and all that kind of stuff, and so he'd use his pay to buy flowers to send to mum. And mum was just like, no, like I want to date him, but I don't know if I, da da da. Anyway, after like a bunch of months, mum got a phone call on the home phone, the old rotary phone.
Yeah.
And it was my dad's mum, and she's like, look, hi, my son's asking you out. Even if you don't want to go out with him, you please just take him on one date because it is costing a fortune to send these flowers. And mum was like, okay. So they went on a date. It was really lovely and all that kind of stuff. And then, I think they went on a second date, and, she really genuinely really liked him. And then he said, I've just got a contract to go to England. If I take this, then I'll be over there for at least a year. But I really want to give this a go. So if you feel that we could give this a go, I'll stay here. And mum was like, I'm not going to hold anyone back from living their dreams. And mum was like, no, you go. And he's just like, and she's like, look, she kind of just said look, just go. I don't know if we'll work or anything like that. So you just go. And he was like, oh shit. It was like Devo. So he went inside, signed the contract, faxed it. And then anyway, like, I think like 2 or 3 days later, we went out to some concert and he comes home and there was mum like sitting on his, like on the porch, like on the step. And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I changed my mind. I really want to make this work. And anyway, so dad was like, oh shit, I'm already going over. Like I've already said I'm going to England like in a couple of days. Anyway, she was just like, okay, well, I'll come. And like, he asked her to come. She's like, okay, I'll do it. So she gave work like her 2 weeks notice or 3 weeks notice, saved up whatever she could, went over there. And I think 14 or 15 days after that, he proposed to her. And
Wow.
yeah, and so anyway, basically dad's done his whole career, playing football and reading the news, like sport for the news now, and commentating rugby league games. And mum used to, mum basically, the best way to describe it is dad is like, played his football, like he did that. Mum did everything else. Yeah. As mums do, like you like, she did everything. Absolutely everything. So she's like, basically made sure that all dad had to focus on was his footy or something else, and everything else mum's like, I got this, we're a team, I do this, you do that, we're sweet. So yeah, man, so mum's just basically she's been throughout her whole life,
she was the support structure that held him up or allowed him to hold himself up in that place kind of thing.
Yeah, and I honestly feel like mum's basically a lot of what dad, me, my brother Mitch, my sister generally, all the things that we have, like a lot of goodness in us, we attribute to mum. Like You know what I mean? So anyway, so that's a little bit about my mum, but
Oh,
she's a top bird. And
so,
while Walrus, I don't know whereabouts in England they went. I think they went to. I think they went to Leeds. I know they. Dad, I can't remember. I can't remember the jersey, but it's this white jersey, and it's like I can see it, but I can't remember exactly where it was. So, um, yeah.
we'll get
So
back to you. So someone else might be able to
yeah,
answer that
to
question.
be continued.
Someone Google it and then write it in the comment thingy for
Yeah,
us.
exactly.
So did you? Your dad sounds like quite the romantic. Do you have? Do you carry on that attribute?
Look, I've been known to buy a flower or two on Valentine's Day. Mate, I have been on both ends of the spectrum. Okay, so like I've put like so much effort into doing something as romantic as humanly possible. And then on the other end of the spectrum, when I was a lot younger, like there was a girl I took on a date, but she, like because it was summertime, we'd organized like this is when we were teenagers and stuff. We'd organized to go have a day at the beach and then have some lunch and stuff like that. But because we were both so chill, she was like, "Yeah, man, like I'm sort of hungry, I guess. If you want to eat, we can eat." And I was the same thing. I was like, "Oh, do you want to eat?" And we hadn't like had a kiss or anything, so we we're both like dancing around each other. And then I was just like, "Well, I mean, there's a Macca's just across the road. Do you want to go to Macca's?" And she's like, "I thought you'd never ask." And so our first date was at McDonald's. We ended up dating for like a couple of months, but like first date was at McDonald's, and just to, I made it a large meal, just to. But there's other things, man. Like I've yeah, it's. I thought it was raining for a sec. Yeah, man. Like I've definitely put some thought into doing some things, but we all done that. What's the most romantic thing you've done, bro?
Oh. Well, how I proposed to Amy is pretty cool. I don't know if you've seen that story or not, but did it in Byron Bay. We'd been there like once a year, the two of us. We both loved it before we met each other, and then have gone there since together. And then organized like a friend trip with my mates there. This was about Christmas time for Easter, and then told my mates, "Look, I'm wanting to propose to Amy. Do you want to help me out?"
Yeah.
And then it kind of really organically grew into this thing where it only ended up being two of my mates who came. But I got the Neighbours art department to make two. Well, I took two blank Cards Against Humanity cards to them because she loves Cards Against Humanity, and someone had stolen our box, so I bought like $300 worth of Cards Against Humanity. It was crazy, but I got these blank cards and took it to the Neighbours art department, and I'd gotten approval from the producer. They were like, "You have to do this," and got a question card made up as "Will you underscore me," and then an answer card that said "Marry," and the art department did this incredible job where they look like completely legit cards. Like he spliced down the card, down the spine of the card, and like split it open, printed a new side, stuck it together, laminated it with this special card laminate that like makes it shiny, but it's not like that like so it looks like a perfect playing card. I picked these things up. I was like, "Oh man, these are like what? This is so good." And then anyway, got to Byron. Got there on the Monday. On the Tuesday, both my mates were there on that day. So went in the morning with a mate, picked out a spot on the beach. Then went and picked up the other mate from the airport. Bought a shovel on the way home from Bunnings because I wanted them to, because it's windy, build a bit of a windbreak so they can put some candles out. And then we just spent the day at home at the place we were staying, just chilling out, playing some card games and whatever. And then I took Amy into the town, got an iced chai there from a place called Combi, which is our favorite place to get iced chai. And then the boys then went and bought a bottle of champagne, went and set up this thing on the beach with a blanket, candles, whatever, and then texted me and say, "Oh, we're ready." And I said to her, "Oh, Tom's taking some photos down the beach and they're having him and Roy having some beers. Do you want to go join them?" She's like, "All right." So then we walked all the way there. It was at Tallows Beach, so it was the other side of Byron, and then walked out, and then there was this blanket with the cards in the box, and she picked up the card and I pulled out the other card, and then the ring and all that stuff. So that's probably the most romantic thing. Like, yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Bloody romantic.
Yeah, I wanted to make it special.
That is awesome, man. Far out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I was just hoping it wouldn't rain because that would have made things real difficult. Oh, and I knew that if like it rained and then like it rained for a few days because we were there for a week and we had to do it later in the week, one of them would have said something real dumb and given it away. So I was like, I've got to do it as soon as possible. Yeah. But all right, so 13, you started working? What was the first job?
My first job, far out. My first job was an extra in a coffee commercial.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, man. And so I was, I think I was 15 at that time, and yeah, just like only a couple of auditions per year, and then yeah, so I was an extra in a coffee commercial, and funnily enough, that was the first and only time I've ever tasted coffee, and because that was the launch of Zarafa's coffee, and I was standing there with the lead dude of the commercial, the owner of the company, the director of the commercial, and his assistant. And the assistant goes, "All right, guys, I'll get you a coffee. What do you want?" And I was like, "Oh shit, I don't drink coffee." And I was like, "But if part of me was like, if I say I don't drink coffee, are they going to kick me off the commercial? Holy crap, I don't know. I'm this little 15-year-old. I got no idea." So I'm like, I don't know. What does Dad have? What does Dad have? And then they all say whatever. I'm like, "Oh, large flat white." And I don't know. I didn't know.
You had
what
to
the
say
hell a
large
flat
too.
Yeah, well, they were all getting like, I was like, "I'll just have a large flat white." And they were like, "Yeah." Brings it back. I had this sip, and as soon as I sipped it, I'm like, and I pretended to take another sip and spat it all back in. And then I was just like, I could taste it. And I was like, this is not my jam at all. Because I got such a sweet tooth. And I was like, this isn't it. Anyway, so I sat there like miming drinking for like the next 10 minutes, and everyone else's froth is going down except for mine. I'm like, oh shit. Anyway, when it came time for the commercial to start, I've like walked away to the nearest bin and chucked it in, because I was like, yeah, I was just like, that's the only time I've ever drank coffee, and it wasn't for me. Anyway, so there was that, and then went back to doing audition after audition for so many things, and then the next thing I was an extra for was a kids TV show called The Sleepover Club.
Oh yeah,
And
I had a mate in
yeah,
that. Hannah Wang. She was like the tiny pocket rocket.
Hannah we became really good mates through
That's
that.
sick. Yeah,
Used to call each other, yeah, bro and sis. Like,
she's a
yeah,
legend. Love her.
she's a top chick. And so yeah, I was like an extra on that, a couple of days out of each week, and so um, and then yeah, and so like go forward a little bit. Like I remember getting 2 different roles in 2 different Nutri-Grain commercials, and just like small bits here and there, and like just continuous extra work. So I was an extra on series 1 and 2 of H2O, the Mermaid Show.
Yep.
So and the coolest thing about that is I remember my school pulled me aside. So someone like the assistant principal at the time pulled me aside, and she's like, "So we heard that you're trying to give the acting thing a go." I was like, "Yeah." And she was just like, you really gonna keep trying with that? I was like, I would like to, yeah. And she's like, yeah, right. Well, basically what we want to say is it's not really good for your education to be taking a day or 2 off school every week or every second week to do this. So you're going to either have to make a choice, either stop that or stop your schooling. And I was just like, oh, shit, okay, kind of thing. And mind you, this, like, who it was isn't there anymore. But and I've, like, you know, I visited the new like people who are doing the drama and all that kind of stuff at the school, at my old high school, and they're awesome. But just that at that time they were like, yeah, either leave school or stop the acting. And I was like, okay. And they're like, yeah, so just you're gonna have to make that decision pretty quick, because before we kind of ask you to leave. And I was like, oh crap. So anyway, I just kept sort of like I was just like, Mum, can you call up school, tell them I'm sick today? So she just call up and just tell them I'm sick, like every second week. How sick does a kid need to, like, I was just like, and you know, so they could see through it, but then like I just had to keep telling them I was sick. And anyway, so yeah, I remember, so I was always doing extra work for H2O seasons 1 and 2, and then there was Mortified, which was another kids TV show, and I got 2 different roles in that. One was a boyfriend role of Marnie's older sister, Diana. And then another little role I had was the talking shoe face.
Yes, I was going to ask about that, because I saw that on the thing. I was like, what the hell is talking shoe face?
Yeah, man. So I was the talking shoe face, and that was like, and so that like, so I just had to like lay on the ground, and they'd painted my like whole face so they could like do all the, like, you know, CGI, not CGI, sorry, just put some like
special
some computer stuff over it. Yeah, yeah. And so anyway, I'm laying on the ground, and then then there was Marnie sitting over top of me. She's talking to her shoe, which is me, and then they like dropping water because she was crying, and the tears were like going into me, and I'm like, yeah. So this, like, I was like 16, 17 at the time. It was awesome, and someone's just said, what's it like to act with Claire Holt? So Claire, here's a little funny story about Claire. So we both got a Dreamworld commercial at the same time, when I was 16 and she was 15. And it was, I did the family Dream World commercial. She did like the young teenagers one, right? And so we were all part there getting fittings and stuff like that done. And so, and I remember meeting her, we had a little chat. And then the next time we caught up was when we were all in the final round stages for the roles of H2O, because I auditioned for one of the characters in season 1 and got down to the final stage. But obviously I didn't get it, and Claire got her role. But we saw each other and we were like, hey, good to see you. Holy shit. Like, you know, and anyway, whenever I was an extra on set, it was cool because Claire, even now, and yeah, like, and you said he's still in touch with her. Yeah, I'm still in touch with her now. And Claire is another one of those people. Like, Claire has got a heart of gold, and for all she's accomplished and achieved, it's the way she interacts with you is like she's still yet to get her first job, if that makes sense. Like, she's still genuine, and like being in the industry hasn't changed her one bit, and she's still got all the time in the world. So I remember a couple of weeks ago, I wrote her a message and just touch base and seen how she's going, stuff like that. She's like, yeah, give us a call, you know, one of these days. And just threw it out and said, yeah, give me a call anytime. It'd be great to hear from you again. And I'm just like, you know, she's got a family now. She's had an amazing career, but she's just awesome. So, but I remember when I was auditioning for Home and Away. So the first time, there was this really busy week when I was in grade 12. And I made it to the final 3 for a role in Home and Away, and I made it to the final 5 for a role in Power Rangers. And I had to go to Sydney twice in the same week. And that whole week, I barely slept. Like, I was so nervous. It was the first, like, I was like going far out. Maybe I can actually do this acting thing. I'm not sure, because you're like getting knocked back after knockback. Like, I was doing probably 2-3 auditions a week for different things. And you know, this industry, bro, is like based on rejection. So you're getting told every audition, just nah, you're not getting it. Nah, sorry, they went another way. So, and you just got to not take it personal. And it's a cool thing to develop a bit of a thick skin, because you got to know it's not a personal thing. It's just someone else was right for the role, whatever it may be. And so I went to Sydney for the Power Rangers one first. And I come back home, and I was getting pretty sick because I wasn't sleeping, and I was just the nerves every single day. I was getting goosebumps, not goosebumps, sorry, butterflies. And I was in school and class, and all I could think about were these auditions and my lines and this and that. Anyway, 2 days later, I went to Sydney again, and my brother came with me to help me go through my lines and stuff like that. And this was the coolest thing, man. So I went for a character called Rick Dolby, and Rick Dolby was played by Mark Furs. And so I went in there, and it's just the final couple. So each person you get to do for the final round, as you'd know, you get to do it with an actor from the show. And my scene was with Alf, Raymar. And I was like, oh shit, I know who this guy is. And so I got in there, and I, you know, pleased to meet you, this and that. And anyway, we had a quick run through of the scenes, and we did a take. And usually with auditions, you get 2 takes, and then they're like, great, that was great, thanks very much. Yeah. You know, it's such a quick in and out process. And I'll never forget this. This is something that I go, you know, you see people in this industry that you go, I aspire to have their enthusiasm or their passion or just their down-to-earthness kind of thing, right? And this is something I'll never forget. So we did the one take, and I was nervous as hell, and I butchered it so bad. Anyway, she's like, okay, we'll go one more. And Ray's like, hang on a minute. And he just stopped the casting director. He's like, hang on a minute. Can you just take 5 for a sec? I'm just going to have a talk with him. And she's like, sure, Ray. And he's like, come here, young fella. Come sit down. I was like, oh, shit. So he sat down on the chair, because there was 2 chairs. And because one scene was sitting down, one scene was standing up, and I had to just yell at him. And anyway, so we sat down, and he starts asking me questions about the scene. Like, he's like, okay, so... Because how I was saying it was obviously it was sounding too scripted rather than just a genuine conversation. And he sits down. He's just like, so where are you from again? I said, Brisbane. So I go, okay. Do you play a bit of football? I said, yeah, I do. What position? This. He's like, okay. He goes, do you see how easily that conversation just flowed then? I was like, yeah. And he goes, what we're doing right now is no different. We're just having a conversation. So, and then he goes, let's just do a quick line run, but I want you to talk to me, just as simple as that. So we go through that, and then he asks me a random question in the middle of us doing that run through. And I was a bit thrown. He goes, no, we're having a conversation, remember? And I was like, yeah. And my nerves started to just subside. And then he asks me another question that was off script, and I answered that, and he goes, great. And then he goes through the scene. He goes, let's go again. We did it again. And then he goes, all right, let's just have a conversation. He stands over and goes, we're good. And then we did the scene, and it felt so good. It felt so normal. We did the next one. He goes, hang on a minute, just give us a sec. And he goes, Link, and he asks me a couple of questions just to get me in the mindset. And he's just like, has there ever been someone that you've just wanted to just absolutely get into? And I was just like, yeah. And he goes, I'm that person. I want you, if there's anyone that has ever not given you an answer to something you've needed an answer for, I'm that person, and you need that answer from me. And I was like, wow. And anyway, we did the scene, and I was just like ripping him, and I'm just like in his face, and we did it, and it felt so good. And then, and he looks at me after, and she's like, that was fantastic. And Ray just like looks at me, he's like, gives me this little wink. And I was like, thank you so much. He's like, all right, mate, good stuff. And he goes, hey, really good job. And I was like, oh man, I walked out and I was on cloud nine. And, a couple of days later, I got told by my agent they went another way, which is just the way it goes. You walk out of those things, you're on cloud nine, you're floating. You're like, I've just done the best audition I've ever done. And at Walrus, yeah, he is a good teacher, but I think he's good. His experience mixed with who he is just, done that. Anyway, so
yeah, but the thing with you just saying you walk out cloud nine, that experience itself is allowed to be a real positive too. Like the fact that you missed out on it doesn't take away from that being an excellent audition. You know what I mean? So, and that's what a lot of people, I think, a lot of actors miss out on. They think that if I missed the role, then the experience is also bad. But you can have a great experience. That's what you're aiming for, even if you don't get the role.
Absolutely, man. Like, the thing that I was told from a very young age is the audition is what you're looking for. Anything else is just a bonus because it gives you the opportunity to actually utilize your craft. And so when you get that audition, you walk out and like you just said, you take that experience and you walk out and you're like, okay, shit, I dropped the line because maybe like when I could have, like I wasn't thinking about it at the time. Next time, stay in the moment. It's as simple as that. Whatever it may be, there's always something to be learned. In anything we do in life, there is a lesson from it that we can learn to take to the next day or the next opportunity, whatever it is. So with that, flash forward another year. I was a year out of school and a lot of auditions. So flash forward a year was my first year out of school. And I managed to get one of the leads in a low-budget horror film, not a short film, sorry, a low-budget horror film done on the Goldie. And then, but before that, at the very start of the year, I was down to the final two for the lead role in a movie called Aquamarine.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, the mermaid film. And then I didn't get it, and I got one of the mate roles. And so that was really cool because we spent like a long time just being on the set. And so there was Sarah Paxton, there was Jojo, there was like Emma Roberts, and then Jake McDormand, and then like we all just became really like close through that, and we had such a sick time, man. And so that was a really sick experience. And then so like later on that year, I got another audition for a character on Home and Away called Drew, which, spoiler alert, got played by Bob Morley. Who went on to do Neighbours and then went on to do the TV show The 100. And so Bob, we did that, and Bob and I were down to the final two for that. And we did the thing, like I went and stayed at one of the guys who was on the show at the time. His name was Paul O'Brien. He played a cop called Jack Holden, and Jack and Martha were a married couple, and Jodie is now on Neighbours. And so Jodie played Martha. And so anyway, I stayed at Paul's for the week and just went through the lines with him continuously, like just kept smashing out. He was on the show. He was just like, we were at such a fast pace. He was running through all these different things. And anyway, I could not have been more prepared. And we went down to Manly Beach one night and just went over the scenes. And he was like, we spent a whole night creating a backstory. And he's asking me questions that I just had to think that that's what my character has been through. Went down onto the sand at night time so no one was there. And he's like, I want you to unleash, because in this scene, it was an emotional scene. I had to go so hard out. And he's like, make shit up, man. Let's go off script. Let's completely get the mind going. I was like, yeah, cool, man. Anyway, so did the audition, felt super good about it. And then, yeah, a couple of days later, I was out to dinner with a whole bunch of people, and got told I didn't get the role again. And I was pretty mate. Honestly, that was one of those times I was really broken, like, because I was like, okay, I don't think I'm going to crack this. And I sort of I walked away from it. I just needed a minute and sort of had like, had a couple of tears about it, because you put your heart and soul into what you love, and it's okay, to feel the way you feel about it. And so I actually had a chat with my agent a couple of days later. I was like, look, should I kind of quit? Like, I can't remember the word I used, but I was basically like saying, look, I don't know if I'm going to do this, and I don't want to waste your time as an agent. I don't want to, like, I just don't know if I'm ever going to make it.
You felt like you'd given your all and then had still missed out. So how could it possibly be a thing that you could go do?
It.
Yeah.
Totally, man, which is something as every actor in this industry goes through. We always, because you just go, I just don't know if I have what it takes. And anyway, so a couple of days later, and a couple of chats with mum and with my agent, all that kind of stuff, we just we nutted it all out. And anyway, so come the next year, I was in Melbourne at the time, and it was around the time my dad, we just come out, so it just became public knowledge that Dad has had epilepsy his whole life. And so it's a big national news kind of thing. Anyway, we'd walked out of this room where just before this, there was me, my brother, mum, and dad, and the team of the 3 top neurosurgeons in the country, and I think they were the top ones in the world, had just told Dad, we're going to do the operation in 5 days' time. We're going to cut out a 5 by 3 centimeter piece of it ended up being a 5 by 3 centimeter piece of his brain they took out, but they said, we're going to operate on your brain. And they told him all the different things of, there's a 1 in a million chance this has happened. There'll be a 1 in 100 chance of this. And they rattled through it because they got to. And we were just like, fuck, man, this is heavy. So we walked out and we had tears, and I did. I kind of just walked out. And then my agent calls. She's like, darling, you got an audition for Home and Away again. I was like, that's so good. And anyway, like a couple of days later, I put my audition down at Mulliners in Melbourne. And I didn't feel it was that good of an audition, but I got a recall and just smashed out as best as I could, like just worked on it. Anyway, did it, and it just felt really good. And anyway, I walked out and I jumped on the Manly ferry to go back to stay with my mate. My agent calls, how'd you go? And I said to her, I was like, I don't know why, I just got a feeling. I just got a feeling it's going my way. I don't know why. A couple of days later, no, it wasn't a couple of days, it was like 2 weeks later, where I was in Freedom, the furniture place with Mum and my auntie. And then I got a phone lit up, private number, it was going to be my agent. I just walked away from Mum, my auntie. I thought, fuck, if I'm going to break down, I'm going to break down by myself. And I'm like, hello? And I answer the phone, and the other thing she does, she's like, is that my Summer Bay boy? And I was like, ah! I was like, no way! Anyway, like, Mum's heard me, and I'm just like, from the other end of Freedom, I was going, ah! And Mum's like, no! And then she's told the Freedom cheer. Anyway, like.
Classic Mum.
So, and 6 days later, I was in Sydney, living there, having a wardrobe fitting, to spend the next 3 years doing Home and Away.
And that's a classic example, you're with a Dolly Teen Choice Award and a Logie Award later to know that it's the right role coming about as well. It doesn't matter how hard you work on one, sometimes you're just right for it, or someone else is more right for it, and that's it. You're not wrong for it. You're just not as right as somebody else. So.
Absolutely right, bro. Yeah. Couldn't have put it better.
What was your first day on set like?
Oh man, my first day on set was actually kind of cool because it wasn't. It was on the Northern Beaches, and it was with Jodie and Charlotte. Charlotte played my sister Annie, and it was in a car, and it was, I think, basically our second appearance on the show. So the first one was seeing Jodie in our barn, and she was asleep on a bale of hay, and then we end up giving her a ride back into town, and so she's in the back seat. No, she's not in the back seat. She's in this, I drove, she's in the passenger seat, Charlotte's in the back. And so that was it. And they were like, she basically says, come in, let me at least shout you a milkshake or something. It's the least I can do kind of thing. Is that moment of like, okay, we're going to get in a lot of trouble if Granddad finds out, but let's go in. And Charlotte was only, I think, 13 at the time. I was 19. And so we knocked that out. And then that was the one scene of the day. And after that, we were wrapped, and like just for the day. And I was like, good, yes, great. Smashing. From that moment on, it was cool. And then the next day was at Palm Beach, and then just did our location scenes and then studio the next week. And it was so surreal, man, like seeing it all happen for the first time. And but I remember my granddad was a veteran by the name of Chris Haywood, and he's worked on so many projects, and he's worked with Ray Ma, who plays Alf in a couple of different films and stuff. So I learned a lot from him. But I remember I just always, even if I wasn't filming, I would just go and sit in the studio and just watch sometimes what they were doing. And I remember watching Ray, so Alf, him just come in professional as hell, have a quick hello to the crew. He's like, yeah, mate, how you going? Good to see you. Like straight on set, knew his lines, knew what he had to do, did what he had to do. And as soon as he was done, thanks guys, walk off. Hey, see you later. Have a quick chat if there was time, someone to chat to him. But then he's out. He's like the ultimate professional. And I just watched how he worked and how his set etiquette was and all that kind of stuff. And like just wanted to learn from him. So so that was really cool, man. And that was like, it was quite surreal. And every day you're on set, you're just like, am I really here? Like, doesn't matter what character you are, whether you're good guy, dick, I've played like a jock. I've played just a couple of different characters. No matter what it is, you walk on set and you're like, and then you're like, all right, now I've got to get into character.
Yeah. With me and Maddie stand there and go, this is stupid. What we do is stupid. Like, we just really remember these lines and then like, what are we doing? This is crazy. Like, it's just, because it's like, if you like think about it too much, it becomes more and more ridiculous what we're doing, pretending to be someone else, and not ridiculous in a negative sense, but ridiculous in just in like, what? Like, you stand there, you've got to remember these lines, you're pretending to be someone else, with other people who are pretending to be someone else. There's a whole bunch of people who aren't pretending to be anybody, and they're watching you and they're filming and doing all the stuff that they've got to do. And it's all a bit ridiculous, but at the end of the day, like the end result isn't like it's. And
the end result is like you come home, you flick it on television, and somehow what they're going through and their stories, and you're just like, and you're absolutely right, man. It's crazy. And another thing that like is like always would blow my mind is because I'd be sitting there going, holy, like, fuck, I'm on set, like this is so cool. And then I have my own like things that I go through to get into character, or that I'm going when I'm breaking down a script. But then you see everyone else has their individual things that they're doing, and you're all sitting there, and even in rehearsals and stuff like that. Sitting in rehearsals was the thing that blew my mind most, just because you go into that room, there's like tables. We'd always have it set in a big square, and like you just sit there, and other people have been there before you got there or whatever, and they're just sitting there talking about the scene with one of the other actors, the director or whatever, and they're just writing stuff down. You're like, this is so professional and so cool. And then you go in and you sit down, you're like, oh, okay, sweet. And then your scene comes in and you're like, hey, so I just had a quick question about this. And then you're like, oh, cool, I'm doing the thing that I got to see them do. Like the thing is, it never gets old. Like, and it's so, I don't know, in my mind, and I see it in yours as well, it just doesn't get old. It's, yeah, like every second that you get to do it is a privilege. And like any second mate, waking up is a privilege. And I think that's one of those things, like just to take it back to like what's going on in the world right now. Like waking up is a privilege. Being able to see friends and family is a privilege. Being able to do what you love is a privilege. Like I don't know, man. Like every day we all, like everything is relative. We all have things that get us down. We're allowed to be down. We're allowed to be upset. We're allowed to take a day, or depending what it is, a week. No matter what it is, you're allowed to be down. But also there's, and sometimes it is hard to see it, but there is always something to be happy about in every single day. And again, it starts with the fact that we get to wake up. And I remember speaking to this Aboriginal elder in Western Australia once, and I was chatting with him for a couple of days, and his answer was always the same when I'd ask how he was going. I said to him, I was like, Neville, how are you, mate? And he's an older fella, and he's just like, and he would always just say, yeah, I'm good, mate, I'm good. Any day above ground. No one's putting dirt on me today. And I was like, that's a really cool way to look at it. And he's like, mate, hey, no one's putting me on the ground today. And I was like, that is a really beautifully simplistic way of looking at it that is so inspiring. And mind you, like, again, we've all had our things that get us down and upset us and whatnot. Like, last year, that's exactly the place I was in, where I was genuinely just didn't want to wake up. So we've all had our things, but and it's funny, like I've been asked, like, when people say you have things to be thankful for, which you do. you still got to like sometimes when you can be in those things, it's like getting like an empty toilet roll, like just a cardboard those
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
right? Like getting that and just like closing your eye and looking through it. You can't see anything else around you, and unfortunately that's sometimes the state we find ourselves in. But as soon as you just take that back and just have a little bit of a peek at everything around you, it's just like a new color starts to appear in front of you, and more things start to light up, and life just, you see beauty in life again. It's like seeing the sunrise and seeing the blue in the ocean, seeing the green in the trees. It's just like you start to really just see the beauty around you, and you're like, I'm very thankful to wake up today.
mm.
And again, it's how I feel like when we get to work. It's just going, I get to do this because I've always wanted to do this, and someone's trusting me enough with one of the roles in their project to do this justice. This is awesome.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that separates a lot of people, I think, who go on and continue to act and be, I guess, actors, as opposed to people who have just fallen into something by accident and then found themselves there. Is the ones that will keep going are the ones that every day when they are on set do look at themselves and go, wow, like, and that brings a smile or whatever. You don't, because you say you don't get over that, but I think some people do. And that's the difference, because we can't help
Absolutely.
ourselves, because it's like people say, oh, why do you act or whatever, and or what kept you acting, and it's like, well, because you love it, you have to do
I love
it,
it.
because if you're doing it for fame, if you're doing it for money, all that kind of stuff, you're not going to last, because there's all of those downtimes, right, where you were just you're plugging away, trying to get a job, and it doesn't matter whether you've done a big job before or not. Everyone's in that same boat, where you'll have months, if not years, where you don't book another, at least bigger thing, and your love for it just has to be the thing that drives you. And it's a weird profession where, unless you're in something like Neighbours or Home and Away, 99% of the time you're not acting. Like, as an
Yeah.
actor, you're not acting.
In Australia, it's crazy. Yeah, it really is. And like, to be honest with you, I've been very fortunate. Like after I did Home and Away, I'm very, very fortunate to do a bunch of. I was working consistently for about 8 years. But mind you, in saying that, for the last couple of years has been exactly that. It's been really trying. Like we released Danger Close last year. I had a small role in that, but that was the only acting role I had in that entire year. And then there was something the year before. I think someone's asked me one of the questions saying, they said, do you have any regrets about your time in Hell's Kitchen? No, I don't. Like, I know it was a reality show and everything like that, but I was a shit cook. Now I know how to cook. Everything you do, you take experience from. And so like whether it be like Home and Away, finished on that, and I was really, really stoked because I left Home and Away on a Friday. So my last day was on a Friday. For the last 3 weeks, I was doing pre-production for Tomorrow When the War Began. So on the Friday, finished up, went home, had dinner with my mate, two other mates who were on the show with me. Like, we were just best mates, and we had a celebratory dinner. I left the next day to the Hunter Valley, which is only 2.5, 3 hour drive. And on Monday, we started principal photography for Tomorrow When the War Began, which we spent the next 10 weeks filming on. And from there, I was lucky. Luck plays its role, and there was a lot. I was very fortunate, is the word I want to use. And just to continuously work. But we do have the times where we're just not working. And again, like Home and Away and Neighbours is a real awesome, like, constant in the industry, in the Australian industry, where there's such milestone shows. They're iconic Australian shows. And so when you get on that, you're like, I've known about this show since I was born, and now I actually get to be on it. So it's like really cool. So yeah, man, it's a trip.
Yeah, and Tomorrow in the War Began, I was in the top 3 for that with bloody Chris Pang still in it front.
Ah, really?
Yeah. I was on hold for ages for that. I was like, it was the same as you, right? So I had done a Girls World and then came back from Singapore shooting that, and a week later had an audition for Tomorrow in the War Began, and then a few weeks later had a call back, and then was just on hold for like, it felt like forever. And I was doing uni at the time, going, I don't know whether I'm finishing this semester, because I might have to just go to the Hunter Valley and do all this stuff. And like that's like growing up, that was like my book, like my series. I was in love with this bloody book, and so I was pretty devastated that I didn't get to join you on that.
It was the only. Hey, we're gonna work together, brother. We will work together.
Absolutely.
I'm with you, man. That was the same book. I hated reading in school. I hated it. Like, I read that book in, I think, grade 8 and then grade 11 or something like that. but then kept reading the whole book series. And no matter how much I would not study certain things or wouldn't read other things, I just wanted to be outside and play footy. And I just wanted, I wanted to do stuff. And I was pretty crappy academically because I didn't apply myself, which actually I had to work twice as hard when I did get home and away, because I hadn't really set myself up for to do the study and to do the work. And it doesn't just happen. You need for anything, you need to work your ass off. And so you need to put in the time. And because I hadn't actually set those routines, I guess,
the habit patterns in your brain or whatever. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And because I hadn't really done much work on those, I had to work twice as hard when I got it, because I was just I was so easily distracted. And so, took some time. But anyway, forget what my train of thought was now.
Tomorrow When the War Began.
Yes. Yeah. So read those books, man. And I would read them before I went to sleep. As soon as I woke up, I'd wake up half an hour early just to read some extra. And then I'd get up and go for a paddle in the morning before I'd go get ready for school and stuff. And I would just make sure I could read it any chance I got. And that was one of those things to show how wide that book went, because there were so many people, young, old, guys, girls of any demographic, dudes that are yeah, man, I read that book. Oh, I hate reading, but I love those books. And I was I was the same. I hated reading, which I love now. But at the time I was I hated reading, but I loved reading those books. And I remember when I had the audition, I actually found out about it through someone else, through one of the girls that was auditioning. And I called my agent up at 9 o'clock at night, and she was just hey, you all good? And I'm is there a movie called Tomorrow When the War Began? And she's just I think so. I was I don't care how you do it. I just need to get an audition. Get me an audition. She's oh, do you want to audition for? I'm what the fuck yes. And so anyway, got an audition, and I went and did some work with our with the onset acting coach, and we just broke it all down. Spent a good hour doing it, and then I went and did my audition. They were and it was funny, man. I went into to do it, and there was a couple of dudes in the room, and I went in there. I sat down, and I was just going through it, and I went in, did my scenes, and then the casting director was just would it be okay, Link, if I gave you another scene for a cold read? And for anyone who's watching who doesn't know what a cold read is, it's where they just give you a scene and you just got to learn. They give you 2 minutes to learn it, and then just do it. So it's basically, it's almost like they say, look, we're pretty confident in what you've done, so can you just do something extra just for us? So I was yeah, cool. So I walked out, sat down on the chair, went over it. She called someone else into audition, and then once that person walked out, she's all right, Link, come back in. I was cool. Went and did that one. She's great. So I think callbacks are next week. And I was oh shit, cool. And I found out about, I was in the callback stage. I was sick, did some extra work for it, just worked my ass off in between doing the scenes for Home and Away. And I remember when we did it, you walked into the room, and then there was Stuart Beattie, who directed the film and who wrote it, the producers, the casting director, the casting assistant, and the guy who was reading, who was who was the reader. And so it was a pretty packed out room. And Stu was just he pulled me aside, and he's just hey man, so listen, just, you can go off script if you want. If you want to make some stuff up, make some stuff up. It's absolutely fine. We just want to get to you. We want to see it. And the words, look, it doesn't really matter. We just really want to see the intensity and why the scene was written. I was got you. So I remember we did it, and we just went off key for 5 minutes, and we just kept doing shit and saying some stuff. And it was the scene where, in the film, where Corrie, my character's girlfriend, had been shot, and we were deciding whether or not to take her in. And we just kept going back and forth, and he's saying we need to take her in. I'm saying no, and no. We just going. And every time the voices would get raised, I'd just grab him, and I just remember grabbing him, shut the fuck up. He's yeah. And then we start going back, basically trying to keep our voices down and going, and we just kept getting the tension was rising, but our volume wasn't, and we just go. And then we got to this point where he's just mate, we're all dead if we don't, if we get caught, we're all dead. We can't just, I think it was something we can't sacrifice ourselves or something like that. We're all in this together. That's what he said. We're all in this together. And I just grabbed him and I said, exactly. And he's just kind of stopped. And I said, I'm fucking taking her. You can stay here. And I just remember because it had to finish with Kevin taking Corrie. And I just remember we've gone back and forth. I just remember doing that. I was like, exactly. And he just kind of like stopped. And I remember seeing Stewie, and Stewie just there, and he starts going like this. And I was like, oh, cool. And we did it, and I was like, cool. But like you said, man, like we were on hold for ages. I think it was like 6 weeks that I was put on hold for that. And then, yeah, like finally got told, and I was actually on my way into studio. And the night before that, I'd just been kicked off Dancing with the Stars. So I was like, oh shit, I just got kicked off that show. And then finally I was in the cab coming back from the airport. We just flew in from Melbourne. And my agents called me screaming. And anyway, we got into the studio. She's like, you can't tell anyone. You're like, until they announce the cast, you can't tell anyone. I was just like, oh, sick. Okay, cool. So they're like, obviously you can tell your family. And my brother had just been working and like all early morning stuff. I actually come back home for a quick sleep before he went to his second job. And I called him because I called my brother. And I remember calling him, and he's just like, hello. I was like, hey, Mitch, how you going? He's like, yeah, good. What are you doing? And I think it was about 10 o'clock or 10:30 at this stage, because he'd worked at the radio all morning, and then came home for a quick kip. And just like he's like, hey, what are you doing? I said, I just got to work. What are you up to? Fucking sleeping. I was like, oh, sorry, yeah, I was just trying to keep it like super chill. I was just trying to have like best, like just normal chat. And I said, oh yeah, you got much on? He's like, yeah, I'm just working, this and that. And he said, you got a big day? I said, oh nah, just a couple of scenes and I'm chilling. It's like, sweet. And it was about to wrap it up, and I was like, hey, oh, Mitch. He's like, like he was out, like he was so asleep. And I was like, I got tomorrow when the war began. And I immediately just hear him just go, fuck off. And he sits up like, and he goes, I've just sat up, my eyes are so awake right now, holy shit, are you kidding? I was like, no. And anyway, we had this like fangirl moment. And anyway, like a couple of minutes I got off the phone, I called mum and dad. Mum started crying. Anyway, yeah, so we did that film, and that was probably one of the most favorite jobs I've worked on. And then I think after that was like Underbelly and Neighbours, and which I had a sick time on Neighbours, man. Like they called me up and they said, hey, we're doing a storyline in Port Douglas. We'd love you to audition. I was like, are you kidding? Port Douglas? Hell yeah. And so I remember I flew to Melbourne, met up with Ash Brewer, and we did the audition in the studio. And then the next day they called and they said, yeah, we'd like to offer you the role. I was like, sick. And so, yeah, we went up to Port Douglas. Now, how's this, man? Port Douglas, beautiful, amazing, right? And they hadn't had rain for ages. And so it was just clear skies, all that kind of stuff. We got there, it was a little bit cloudy, it was nice. It was our travel day. So Ash and I we went to the pool of the resort that we were staying at, just like catching up and talking about the scenes, and just having a good old catch up about life. Next day was our first day of shooting. We were only filming in Port Douglas for 6 days or something like that, right? For 6 or 7 days, they had record torrential. 2 days after we left, the clear skies returned, and it rained for like
Classic.
a month. It was like torrential. Like the car park of where we were staying wasn't even an underground thing. It was flooded. Like, and we just were waiting there from like 4 a.m. We were just like, just waiting. And then as soon as it would just go to a light drizzle, you just have like the director looking through that little thing where they can look up at, and they just like that little telescope thingy that they have. And he looks up and he's like, I think we got like enough for one take. Are you guys ready? And we're like, yeah, we're good. He's like, all right, just make sure
you're ready. Who was
directing
it?
I can't remember his name, but he was the coolest dude, because I was like, dude, you're all right, because it was his block and it was just pissing down rain. And he was like, dude, we can't help it. It's raining, man. Like, what do you do? It sucks, but again, we can't change that. So we just got to make sure we nail it when we nail it, and just enjoy our time here. I was like, that is a really sick mindset. He was just like, it is what it is. And I was like, that's great. Like, he wasn't, and being the director, he wasn't putting any pressure on anyone else. Everyone knew what they had to do. And he was like, all we can do is all we can do. I was like, that is so cool. And then, so we were filming, like we got everything done, but it was like basically it was all done in like 1 or 2 takes at best. And then we were in Mossman Gorge, and it was just like raging because of all the rainfall and stuff. So it was beautiful. It was just flowing. And so I know some people that were asking in the questions, they were saying about getting offered a contract with Neighbours. And after that, once we finished, they called through and offered a 1-year contract. And but I think at the time I was planning to go to LA, and also Neighbours are home and away. Would you go back to?
You can't make him make that decision.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But make it.
Like that. Yeah, they offered me a 1 year contract, and it would have been sick to take because obviously I loved filming with Ash, I loved filming with Stefan, and it was just all in all, it was a good crew to work with. But I was planning to go to the States at that time, and just shortly after, I think I was working on Bait and Slide at the same time, and so like it was just it was just continuously working at that stage. So to sign a contract, I was just kind of like, oh, because I'd just spent 3 years in home and away as well. I kind of just was looking for some more, like just some roles to diversify. Jesus, I stuffed that up.
Potato,
But
potato.
yeah, so I was just kind of looking like, love it. But yeah, man. But honestly, like it's one of those things. Looking back on it, I absolutely loved it. And some people have asked in the questions stuff. They'd say, would you go? Would you do it again, or would you go back to either one of them? And honestly, dude, like 100% all honesty, I would go back to either in a heartbeat. Like
Your
I
player's going to be
loved them
calling tomorrow,
because
you know.
man, honestly, like I loved working like let's say for instance tomorrow if it was there, I'd get to see you and Maddie, you know what I mean? Like and I'd get to and there's a sick crew, like and little Benny as well. Like yeah, bloody April, Bonnie, they're all like, get to
Look at
see
you
you
name
guys,
dropping
and
again.
it's only like once a year. Hey, guys that you work with, come on, man. It's like I get to see us like once a year, and it's such a sick catch up, and it's so
Yeah.
few and far between. And when we do, it's like we get to sort of like nail out the how you been, what have you been up to, this and that, and it's really like quick. But if you see each other on set every day, you can actually like or you're working
Yeah.
together, I get this. And also at the same time, I loved working on home and away. I lived excuse me, I lived right next door to the beach. So I'd go to the beach when I wasn't filming. If I was filming, I'd be filming on the beach or in a studio where pretending you're
Well,
just
you
coming
don't
back
get
from
to
the
do the
beach.
beach thing in Melbourne as much. Just a warning.
I know. So we go to St Kilda for the day. But I actually pitched a storyline to the home and away producers at the start of the year about just sort of about reprising Jeff, but they ghosted me. So I was just yeah, but look, it is what it is. Like that's the industry. It's just like it's like going for an audition and you don't hear back. That's the way it goes. So, but like to answer the questions that people have been asking, is like I loved both, and so working on either would be awesome. But then again, being a working actor is awesome.
So we've been talking for an hour and 20 so far, and you're like the easiest person ever to talk to because I just don't have to do it. You ask yourself questions while you go along. It's so good. I'm just like, okay, yep. I'm sitting here nodding. It's excellent. But we should probably I feel like there's so much more that you could talk about. But we should probably start to wrap it up because it's just going for a long time, all right? And I feel like you need to have dinner eventually, and I don't really want to stop it. But how about I'll have a look through these questions and let's just do like a quick fire where you've got like a sentence answer at the max.
And thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone for writing the questions as well. Really appreciate it. So yeah, awesome.
Which Neighbours family would you like to be a part of?
Ooh, oh, that's a good one.
You got the Kennedys, you got the Cannings, you've got the Tanakas, the Brennans. The Brennans is Maddie, Tanakas are me. The Robinsons, which is also partly me because I'm a Robinson technically.
Yeah.
Who else am I missing, guys? Oh, the Rebeckys, the Sharmas.
Oh, yeah.
You could totally be a
Mate,
Rebecky. I could see you being a Rebecky.
Do you reckon I could come in and be like lost brother?
What would your fish name be?
Oh, fuck. How
There's
do I pick that?
There's
Toadfish. I could be flathead.
yeah. Is there a flathead?
No, I don't know.
So the chat will be able to tell us that.
Yeah.
Know
If anyone's got any fish names for anyone, you can just let us know. Like if you think there's a fish
jellyfish.
that I could be.
Oh no, jellyfish is Nell, which is Toadie's daughter.
Oh, sick.
Is there a puffer fish? I don't know. That'd be good though. What else we got here? I'm looking for the question marks. At the end
He reckons Rebecca. Yeah. So you know what? Like would be cool to come in and what's Maddie's character's family's name?
Brennan.
Yeah. See, that would be cool because that means I'd get to have scenes with you guys.
Yeah,
so that'd be cool.
that would be cool. I'd dig that as well.
Yeah, that'd
Nidhi asks, "What's your secret to not aging?"
be carrots. No, that's
Carrots.
not that from Family Guy. That's a quagmire. Um, honestly, very. I'm lucky. Mum and dad go like they go all right for their age. Honestly, I put it down to you got to look after your skin. Mum's always said this from when we were young. It's like if you're going out, chuck on sunscreen, chuck on some moisturizer at night time. Like you just look after your skin, look after your body. Like I don't smoke. I enjoy a red wine or cheeky beer with the boys, but I don't go out and I don't get plastered every chance I get or anything. Like I try and look after my body because I'm gonna have this for as long as I live. So I kind of want to put good fuel in the car. So I try as best as I can just to try and look after myself from the inside out. So but everything in moderation. Just I don't know, like keep good company because you're not gonna. It won't. Good company having around you won't. You won't be stressing as much. Like a good support base, and that's that. Family, friends. I can't stress that enough. Is keep good company around you because that makes all the difference. You sleep better at night having good people around you. You think better. You treat yourself better. You treat people around you better. You all in all, your persona just radiates positivity when you're happy with like yourself and the people around you. So I just think that and that goes into mentally, emotionally as much as physically. I can't stress enough having good people around you because it literally just flows out of you.
Yeah, I heard a thing ages ago which said that it was an older guy talking to someone younger on a show, and it said if you want to see your future, show me your 5 closest friends.
Oh, I love that.
I thought it was.
That's mate. I love that, and I cannot agree more with that. Like, and there's a couple within that little realm where it's like show me your friends, I'll show you who you are, and it's just the people you choose to have around you lets you know who you are, and it's very true. Like, it's very true.
This one you can only answer as like a teaser because we'll do it. We'll finish the story in part 2. Favorite memory from or favorite moment from Tomorrow When the War Began. Just filming it.
Oh, favorite moment or I'll say a favorite moment. I'll say was blowing up of Corey's house because
No, because
I remember
that's we don't get to do the because you see, yeah.
that's my bad. See, you got to cut me off or else I'm gonna rattle like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
So yeah, blowing up of Corey's house and like flying through the air when the explosion's happening all behind us.
Wait.
Yeah.
Stop giving it all away. Jeez. Someone's asking if Will Smith can join us on Neighbours. I would love that.
We'll give him a call.
Give him a call. Look, we were so close to having Hugh Jackman, but coronavirus meant that he couldn't come on set. So, it's painful. So painful. It cuts deep.
Sick though, because his wife directed a block for you guys, right?
Yeah. She was directing basically directly me and Maddie with our foster kids. So like Hugh Jackman was on like FaceTime or whatever, watching us perform and watching her direct us. Like, not to take anything away from Deb, because working with Deb's been incredible too. We didn't actually get to really finish it off because they flew straight back to the US as quickly as possible, so they didn't get locked out. But it's just unfortunate timing because I wanted to hang out with her more too because she's amazing, man. Like the amount of energy she has and the positivity she carries, like even comparing to you and Maddie, who are like constantly reining it, like it was just like step it up again, like amazing person to work with, and I really hope get to do it again in some form or fashion because absolute legend.
Sure.
What else we got here? People asking each other questions. I love that. You guys are getting to know each other. That's so cool. When you went over to the Smith's house, did you at least take snacks? I'm not sure what that was.
Snacks? You know what's funny is I actually, because I'd just flown back over to the LA from Australia, because I went back home for a quick minute, my mum makes a really amazing chocolate caramel slice. So she makes the base from scratch, makes the caramel from scratch, and then gets Lindt chocolate, melts it down, and then sets it on top of that. So it's every job I ever work on, I take her chocolate caramel slice on set, no joke. And every second week, because she used to make it and send it when I was doing Home and Away, the crew would be like, "Link, did your mum send slice this week?" And I'm like, You fucking know it, boys. So anyway, I brought over some chocolate caramel slice and some of her homemade melting moments. So I did actually take snacks over there.
Wow. Well, if we ever get to work with each other, which I really hope we do, that's all I'm going to be thinking about is this caramel slice.
It's on.
So.
Don't even, yeah, mate. I've already got my mum's got the oven like on at the moment, so we're on.
How are the This is a good question. How are the people, your friends from school, who didn't know you're acting when you started acting and they started seeing you? What was their reaction like?
Yeah, it was funny, man. Like, because the paper did an article, and and I think I was in like grade 12 or something like that, and they were like, "I saw you in the paper this morning. What the fuck?" And I was just like, "Hang on, Ness, nah, I'm good. Don't need any pizza, thank you though." And like they were just like, "Since when?" And I'm like, "Oh, a couple of years now." And they're like, "Bullshit." I'm like, "No." Anyway, so they were just like, what do you do? Like, do you have to dance or sing or something? I'm like, no, it's acting. It's not dancing or singing. But then like they were just like, oh, sick. What are you doing? I'm like, oh, did a Dreamworld commercial the other week. And they're like, oh, sweet. So anyway, the next year when I started to actually get some roles and stuff, they were just like, dude, so you're actually taking this seriously? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, fucking mad. All right. How you been? I'm like, yeah, good. But like, that's the cool thing about the friends I grew up with is like, they're all just super chill. Like they give me shit when they need to. And then otherwise it's good catch ups. And that's all you can hope for in a friend is to have good banter and good support and good friendship.
I think that's a great place to end it. Great friends. Hopefully we get to be better and better friends and actually
100%.
interact more and work on something because that'd be really cool. And look, probably Jason, our EP, is probably going to be giving you a call tomorrow. So just hang by the phone.
Get me down there, baby. I gave shit at the Logies last year. I walked because of the hotel where you guys were. So I went and got changed in Maddie's room.
That's right. Yeah.
So Maddie actually let me go and get changed in his room, and I got dressed and everything. You guys were all downstairs doing your thing, and Rob Mills was doing, like, he had his phone and he was doing a little selfie video about where he was walking out. And anyway, I've just walked around the side of him and I've just jumped on him or some shit. And he's just like, what are you even fucking doing here? Like, anyway, and he's just like, wait, you're Summer Bay, that's that way. Anyway, I'm just like, while he's still recording, I'll jump behind him. I'm like, I'm moving to Ramsey Street, baby.
Causing a ruckus, and Daily Mail then had 10 articles about it, didn't it? So,
oh man, but honestly,
actually, there'll probably be one tomorrow. There'll probably be an article tomorrow about this conversation.
Has to go. Yeah, most likely. Yeah, hey, mate, fucking. But honestly, dude, let's do this again, man. If you feel like you want having me back anytime, I'd love to jump back on and have a chat.
Absolutely,
so,
give Will a call and get him on. Be
bro.
great. I think people would love to hear his story.
We'll do like a house party.
Do a house party. All right, thank you, mate. That was.
Hey, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Cheers, thanks very much.
Legendary. How good was that? That man. God. I mean, I'm genuine in saying that I just had to sit here and he did all the work for me. It was really good. I'm gonna get more guests like that. That makes it really easy. And yeah, too good. There's not much more to say except for our next guest, which will be on Monday. Which I hope we're coming back to. I guess we never left Ramsey Street because Link had. And Link will be there probably by the end of the year anyway. So, but our next guest on Monday, joining me live right here, is Mr. Tim Robards, the statuesque man himself. What a machine! He's one of the hardest workers on set, and an absolute legend too. So. Make sure you tune in. And other than that, please hit the subscribe button. If you're watching this later, comment below, like it, because then more people see it and all that algorithmic stuff. But I love you all. I hope you're all staying safe. And thank you for joining us today. I'm Takaya Honda, and this is takTalks. Bye!